So another anonymous question that I had came in marriage, how can we cope with one another, especially from different kinds of culture and the way our parents raised us? Well, first I would say every single couple comes together from different backgrounds, from almost we'd say different cultures, so to speak, in the sense that, as you implied there, our parents raised us differently, and we've had different experiences, maybe grew up in different places in the family, oldest child, youngest child, grew up in different cultures within the same country, maybe different religious backgrounds or different religious experiences, even within the same religion. Really, any two people you could say are coming from different cultures. And one of the challenges that's common in marriage is trying to blend those two cultures, including, you referred to one of the really common ones when you talk about parents raising you, is even in parenting. Especially one of the things I've seen is maybe two spouses that come together who felt like their parents did a great job at parenting them, but may have had very different parenting styles. I would certainly say that in my own experience with my wife, that my parents parented very different than her parents, and both of us feel very positively about our parents. Overall, children are pretty successful and do pretty well for both families. And so you have that kind of a situation maybe where you come out and you say, this worked for my family. This is the way that you should parent, and can be quite the challenge. So every couple has to face that. And how do you blend those different backgrounds and different cultures and traditions? So so that's a common challenge for all. That being said, then if you're coming when I'm guessing when you said different cultures, though, you probably were potentially meaning more about different countries. That I'm from one country and he's from another, or she's from another, and so even on a bigger scale of different cultures. So the reason I say that every couple comes in some way, just normalizing that's a common challenge. Even if you married someone from your hometown that you went to high school with and you were high school sweethearts, you're still going to be blending two cultures as you blend your two families. So that may, in one sense, try to decrease the anxiety about that if you're coming from other cultures. But at the same time, then we might say, if two high school sweethearts who were born and raised in the same town are still blending two different cultures, even if they may be same town, similar families, same religious background, it's still going to be blending. Then we'd also assume that if you're coming from different cultures, as in different countries, then or ethnic backgrounds, then that probably is going to exaggerate those differences and bring about some added challenges. But not that it can't be done. One of the things that this kind of falls with a piece of advice from a family therapist, marriage therapist that passed away recently, that he had said that any two people entering marriage ought to recognize that they have a set of challenges that they're going to face for 5, 10, 20 years, maybe even their whole marriage. And Dr. Gottman, who I know I've mentioned and will continue to mention in different things, um, talks about a lot of problems are what we call perpetual problems, that they aren't going to be solved. They aren't brief, temporary, quick solutions. Cultural backgrounds and differences like that are certainly going to be some of those common ones that, particularly if you look at it, they may come up when you're newlyweds, and how you handle, say, let's, for example, in-laws. Do we spend Christmas with both sets of parents? Do we go every other year? How do we handle birthdays or other holidays and traditions that come up? And then you may even feel like you figured that out a little bit, and then you have kids, and now you've got a whole new set of cultures and different things, even from who gets invited into the hospital, anybody into the delivery room, and how do we choose a name for that child? Are there certain traditions that we have about naming a child, or other ideas? If you're different religious backgrounds, how's the child going to be raised? Do we do a christening or a baptism at a young age? Um, Again, a variety of things right off the bat with parenting, let alone how are we going to discipline them? Do we believe in spanking or timeouts, or when they're older, when do they get a phone? And the list could go on and on and on about these different kind of ideas of how we raise, how we're different in our cultures as individuals, let alone cultures from different countries or ethnicities. So the reason I bring that up is the goal with any set of these perpetual problems is to be able to try and make sure you take time to understand each other. In other words, if you come in with what we'd call one truth kind of thinking, meaning I've got the right way, my parents did it this way, it worked out for our family, this is what we should be doing, then you're going to get into what we call this gridlock, almost this tug of war match where you're both just kind of digging your heels and pulling on that rope in your direction. Versus being able to say, let me understand why that's important to you. Let's have discussions even before marriage. Let's have discussions about what kind of tradition, how do we celebrate traditions? What are our beliefs about parenting, about discipline? What do we do for, family get-togethers and hobbies and activities? And how do we manage finances? And what do we believe about division of roles and who's in charge of different tasks in the household? And how do we divide those up? All the kind of things that can, again, be different for every single couple and certainly be influenced by cultural backgrounds and standards and expectations from different upbringings in different countries. So make sure you just have those discussions, and those would be discussions you'd want to have again even before marriage and talk about how we're going to blend those. And then also throughout marriage, realize we may have thought we've kind of figured this out, but we're going to enter new phases throughout our marriage that are going to continually bring up probably this difference as we didn't anticipate some of those things. For example, when we had little children versus how it came out when we had teenagers versus when we have adult children. In other words, do they leave the home when they're 18, or is it okay if they live there, or even once they're married to live in the home? And so hopefully you can start to see it's certainly what we'd call more of a likely perpetual challenge. Not that it has to be something that divides you as a couple or ruins your marriage, but something you'll probably need to continually adapt and work on throughout your marriage. So I hope that answers that question for you.